Hello, I'm Wes Turnbull, and welcome to the final episode of this series of Freemasons The Inside Story. In this episode, I chat with our series hosts who reflect on their favourite stories. Joining me first up to talk about some of the memorable moments of this series of Freemasons The Inside Story is Gab Forman. Gab, welcome.
Thank you.
You've been involved in some great segments and met some interesting people along the way and had a bit of fun as well. And I have a half a feeling that maybe that's a special memory for you of this series.
Definitely. I was involved in interviewing lots of kids at Melbourne Youth Music who were just about to go into an orchestra. They were just practicing. Saturday mornings is their practice day. One thing I found really interesting is that these kids are just so open to telling me just how it is. And so I'd ask them about their instrument and they'd say, oh, I don't play just one instrument, I play 3 instruments. And I began to feel a little bit inadequate actually. I felt like it was a really good opportunity to talk to kids, whereas a lot of the other episodes that I've done, I've talked to members obviously of Freemasons Victoria and an older generation, so it was very refreshing.
What a great talent for kids of that age to have, and something special, a gift that they'll be able to carry through their lives. Wonderful to think that Freemasons were able to contribute to that. Let's have a look at that segment now.
I believe that violin is it's a very beautiful instrument and it's very hard, and I love hard challenges, and it's a very nice sound.
What's the difference between a viola and a violin?
Probably the tuning. The two differences is the viola has a C string and no E string, and the violin has an E string, and they're both different sizes.
The orchestra's more fun because then we can hear the intonation and it's just beautiful.
I just love music. I've got an older brother and sister, and they also play the piano, and so I've just been surrounded by music my whole life, and it's wonderful. I love it.
I actually play the guitar and the piano and the violin, so I just found I like all music, and this is the way that I can get into classical, so that's why I chose the violin.
Joining me now to look back on this series of Freemasons The Inside Story is Ben Quick, one of our segment hosts. Ben, welcome.
Thanks, Wes.
Ben, it's been a terrific series and you've been a big part of that, introducing us to various characters and aspects of Freemasonry. What have been some of the highlights for you?
Look, I'd be in trouble if I didn't say one of my highlights was going around with the then Grandmaster Bob Jones. That was a fantastic day. Likewise, the Masonic Melbourne, where we went to the statue of Sir Doug Nicholls, you know, a prominent Aboriginal Australian and Freemason, fantastic. But overall, my favourite segment for this series has been out at Olympic Stadium at Albert Park with brother Ted Paulin and his son brother Dean Paulin. And they are 2 great ambassadors for Freemasonry, and a father and son with such a close connection. They're still very competitive to this day, and it really came across in the interview. So I'm looking forward to look back on it as well.
Let's do that.
Tell us about your involvement with sport, and more especially the running fraternity.
Well, my involvement with sport early was in football. I played with Port Melbourne Thirds under Tom Lyeth, a very famous name. And then I went to the Sunday League, and I won a couple of best and the fairest in the Sunday League. Then went to Box Hill, played some games with Box Hill, and then I went to the Port Melbourne Colts, which I was captain of the Port Colts. And so I was into football, but my brother-in-law said, let's do a bit of running to get fit for the football season. And that's how I started running, and I was 26 at that stage, 27. And I started running and started sprinting, but couldn't quite get the extra yards in the sprinting, so I started to do a cross-country running under a coach, John Hurst, very famous name in pro running, and he said to me, have a go at this race. And it was a really big race, and I won the race. And he said to me, I can win Stawell with you. So I gave everything else up. Football, golf, whatever I was doing, and I concentrated on the running, and I won the 2 mile at Stawell that year.
We're also very lucky to have Dean with us, the CEO of Little Athletics Victoria. Dean, welcome.
Thank you.
Dean, tell us about your story with running. The apple hasn't fallen far from the tree. How did it all evolve for you?
I guess as a young kid I followed Dad around the professional running circuit and really loved it as well. As a 7-year-old I joined Little Athletics at Doncaster. And Dad was, heavily involved in administration of the club I was involved with at the time. I was reasonably successful. From there I went on to senior athletics at Doncaster Athletic Club as well. I also ran for Carey Grammar in associated public school sports. So, right through from a young age into my early 20s, I guess, I was, heavily involved and fortunate enough to represent my country at the World Cross Country and also at the World Cup. And here I am today as CEO of Little Athletics, so I'm really lucky that I'm involved in a job that I enjoy and I've done all my life basically.
Tell us about some of the stories with running. I believe there's a run that you haven't been beaten at yet by your son Ted.
The marathon. Well, Dean has run a marathon. I was fortunate that I won the Australian Professional Marathon Championship 7 times, so I became known as a bit of a marathon runner. But Dean was a 1500 metre runner, and he decided, and he was talked into it by his coach, to run the Melbourne Marathon. And from the very start he had my time in mind. He was going to beat my time. So the race started and Dean's well on the way to breaking my time quite easily. But towards the latter part of the race he started to feel the race and slowed down, and when he got to the finish line I was standing there and I just gave him a little shake of the head. No. No, he knew what I was meaning. Didn't quite make it, just 40 seconds or so outside my time.
You're probably happy to let that one pass, Dean?
Yeah, that was his preferred event and he's pretty good at it. I think that race more for me was just to be able to say at the end of the day that I'd done a marathon, and it's a pretty tough gig compared to 3 3/4 laps around the track, so I was happy to finish at the end of it, and he's got one up on me, I guess.
I'm with Erin Olsen now, talking about some memories of Freemasons, the Inside Story. In this recent series, Erin, you've also introduced us to some wonderful archive material in Inside the Archives. Was that a special segment to be involved with for you?
It was indeed. I love history, and so going inside the archives with Sam was quite special for me. Seeing the extent and the detail that Freemasons Victoria are going into in not only restoring these items but in packaging them for future enjoyment and use was really spectacular. I think my favourite segment though would have to be one morning when I went out to see FIDA. Met up with Peter Harris, one of the past district coordinators, who worked with raising money for footballs for this wonderful footy league, and just seeing hands-on the impact that some of the Freemasons fundraising has had in the community. It was just a wonderful day. We really enjoyed ourselves.
That's a really good memory. Let's have a look at that segment now.
Hi, we're here today at the Lower Plenty Oval. With me is Logan Whitaker from FIDA. Hi Logan, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So Logan, can you tell us a little bit about FIDA and its history?
Yeah, absolutely. So FIDA is a football league for people with an intellectual disability. It's been around for 23 years. It was started out of the Hawthorn Football Club with the then Hawthorn City Council. Started as just a come and try day to give players with an intellectual disability an opportunity to have a kick of the footy, and it's grown over the last 23 years to now we've got 24 teams, just over 500 players that play every weekend throughout the footy season.
With me is Peter Harris, past district coordinator for the Northern District. Hi Peter, thanks for joining us.
Thanks Erin, good to be with you.
So Peter, can you tell us how you first became acquainted with FIDA?
Yes, I can. My son-in-law, Colin Newcomb, trained with the AFL umpires back in the 90s, and he's still keen to umpire where and when he can, and one of the activities that he was undertaking last year was umpiring down at Williamstown with the feeder organisation. And he was telling me one day about a rather emotional day that he had, where a young player that was awarded a free kick defending the goals decided that the best thing he could do was to kick the ball through the goals and feel rather happy about it. So Colin gave him a free kick and on went the game. But this youngster talked all day for the rest of the game about how he'd kicked the goal, and wasn't it wonderful? And Colin was so moved by that and the standard of play. I could see how he was so enthusiastic about the activity that he was undertaking, and I thought perhaps we can do something to help.
And so, being the district coordinator at the time, how did you get together with the lodges in that area and get behind feeder?
Getting the lodges to undertake some fundraising wasn't difficult, I guess, because the lodges in the Northern District, like everywhere else, are fairly big on charity and benevolence, and they do lots and lots of things in their local communities. And Colin had an idea to perhaps buy some footballs for feeder, which was the campaign that he established, and update their equipment. And because the cost wasn't great, we thought maybe we can get some simple fundraising done with the lodges in the district and buy some new footballs for the players. At the outcome of the exercise, with the help of our Board of Benevolence, we managed to donate just in excess of $1,200 to Colin for feeder, for the footballs, and I think the feeder organisation I know, and Colin in particular, were just overjoyed with the result.
Joining me now is Grand Secretary Peter Henschel. Peter, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Wes.
No stranger to Freemasons, The Inside Story, another successful series. What's the reaction been to the show from among the members and also from the public?
Well, I think as a general comment, very positive. Our members feel engaged with the program, they can relate to it. I think it's made them feel proud to be Freemasons and be exposed on the public stage for all the great work that Freemasonry does. They've also expressed views about certain of the episodes, exposing what Freemasonry does in the country and some of our country members, and they've been pleased to see that. I think also they've been happy to be associated with the great work we do in the community, and some of our philanthropic partnerships are evidence to that. And to the outsider, those not within the Freemasons community, the extent to which Freemasonry is a part of the community, I think, has been a feature of what we've achieved in this series.
What have been some of the particular highlights for you?
Well, I think one of the personal highlights was the opportunity I had to talk to our Grand Chaplains and to get their insights into their role in Freemasonry and what the difference is between faith and religion, because quite clearly they were saying, as all Freemasons know, that Freemasonry isn't a religion. It's one that it's an organisation that appeals to everyone.
It was an interesting segment, and it's certainly a question that comes up regularly, the relationship between Freemasonry and religion for various people and various faiths. So it's a good segment to revisit now.
Turning now to you, David Thompson. In Freemasonry there is a lot of symbolism, and in the middle of a lodge room, suspended from the ceiling, is the letter G. And that's consistent with all lodge rooms around Victoria and, for that matter, around the world. What does that G represent?
It represents the Supreme Being, which is the very point on which we ask all Freemasons to accept as members of the order.
You didn't refer to it as God?
No, because we're anxious that it's clear to people that it spans, or that it doesn't conflict with anybody's concept of God or any other supreme being, for that matter.
Yet in different ceremonies within Freemasonry it has different names to which it's referred. Often we hear reference to the great architect of the universe, or the grand geometrician of the universe, or the Most High. Are these terms used to confuse, or are they used to enhance and reinforce that principle that there is a universality to all faiths and religions within Freemasonry?
It's very much the latter. But again, it's a way of reinforcing that the concept is broad enough to embrace men of a number of faiths.
So given that we've established, David Bloom, that there is this universality of faith and background that can be accepted into Freemasonry, it's acknowledged that members that enter and become Freemasons obligate themselves in certain ceremonies to uphold certain principles. And that obligation is taken on the Bible. Isn't that a Catholic book?
Well, actually, the obligation can be taken on what we call the volume of the sacred law, which can actually be a number of different books or volumes according to the beliefs of the particular candidate. So, for instance, in the case, my case, it would be a copy of the Old Testament. In the case of a Muslim, it might be, for instance, a Qumran, etc. So it's the volume of the sacred law that's important, and the contents of those underpin those obligations and the moral standing.
Peter, there is certainly an interesting segment with the Grand Chaplains and an interesting theme that they are able to explain. The program has been helpful in enlightening for people what the organisation is about, what it represents. And also, as you mentioned earlier, the diversity of the assistance that it provides within the community. And I know Second Bite is a particular organisation that's close to your heart. Tell us about Second Bite.
Well, that was a great cause to support. Second Bite's an organisation which effectively takes food from where it's not wanted and delivers it to where it's most needed. And there was a particular segment in this series where the then Grand Master Bob Jones hopped in the truck and went out, collected food and acted as part of the delivery mechanism for that particular day. And it was a great insight into what could be done for those most in need, and I think that's probably one of my favourite segments.
It's a very practical way that Freemasons are assisting within the community.
It is.
So once again, let's take a look at that segment.
We're here today at the Second Bite warehouse in Kensington, and we're going to have a look at behind the scenes of what Second Bite does in the community. Nearly 12 months ago, the Freemasons of the Western District donated a van to Second Bite to allow them to continue their good work. And we're here today to follow up and see how they're going. Come join me. So, Stuart, you do such fabulous work here. Can you tell us how Second Bite started?
Yeah, well, Second Bite started right here in Melbourne in 2005 by Ian and Simone Carson. They felt impelled to act when they saw the huge amount of food that was going to waste, whilst at the same time there were so many people going hungry. So from that in 2005, we've now grown to a national organisation with over 50 staff, collecting and rescuing food right throughout every state and territory in Australia. In 2014, we have 18 vehicles, we have 10 warehouses and hubs around Australia, and we have over 600 volunteers who regularly support our work, helping us collect and redistribute fresh food to people in need.
So it's wonderful that this food gets recycled. Just how much food does get recycled in a year?
This year we'll collect and redistribute over 5 million kilos of fresh, healthy food, which is enough to provide 10 million meals for hungry Australians.
With me now is the Grand Master of Freemasons Victoria, Hillel Benedykt. Grand Master, welcome to the program.
Thanks very much, Wes.
You've been here for a number of the episodes, and in fact you saw the program through its previous seasons as the Deputy Grand Master then. It was a very special night that we saw you installed as Grand Master back in March. That was a particularly interesting night as well for the television viewing audience, and a live broadcast of that installation. Obviously a memorable night for you.
It was, and certainly to have something in the order of 30 to 40,000 people watch it live on Channel 31, in addition to the 1,000 people that were in the auditorium, as well as those watching it on the internet, meant that it had great coverage to not only all our members, wherever they were situated, but anybody that was interested in seeing a grand installation. So for me it was a tremendous opportunity to share some of my thoughts coming into the role as Grand Master and to share those thoughts widely.
So a first for the program, but a first for Freemasons Victoria as well. Could you ever have imagined such a thing when you first joined the organisation?
Well, I work in the field of information technology, and change is a daily occurrence. And I think in Freemasonry there hasn't been a lot of change, but over the last few years the pace of change seems to have picked up, and I certainly feel very comfortable with that.
How has the organisation changed as a result of the program? What sort of learnings have occurred in the time that the program's been running?
Well, I think the main focus of the program was to open up Freemasonry to the public, and I think a byproduct was that our own members got a great source of pride from watching the episodes, because they all know all the content of the various episodes, but seeing it and being able to discuss it with their family, friends, work colleagues, I think that had a tremendous benefit.
And we've seen so many different aspects of the organisation in its charitable work, in its ceremonial work, and how it's involved within the community. Is there anything we haven't seen about the organisation?
Absolutely. An organisation that's been going for 300 years, and in Victoria specifically 125 years, there's many dimensions to the organisation. We have so many volunteers that do so many things behind the scenes. We have a range of committees that do all sorts of things, either for charity or for the organisation or for the welfare of members, and every lodge has its own characteristics. We have something like 270 lodges, and there's a story in each one of those. There's approximately 130 buildings, and there's a story in each one of those.
And what's the next step for Freemasons Victoria in its communication and opening itself up to the community?
I think as social media takes hold and more people gain access to it, we have to ensure that we provide our story across whatever medium is the medium of the day, and get the message to people how they want to receive it, and ensure that we continue to maintain the momentum we've built and maintain the level of openness we have in the organisation.
Well, Grandmaster, thank you very much for joining us and for allowing us to be able to conduct the series and show a little of what Freemasonry is about, to provide the inside story. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks very much, Wes. It's been a great experience for the whole organisation to produce this series and deliver to the public and to our members a most interesting event every week. And I thank you personally for all you've done in hosting the show.
And Grandmaster, we've been talking about memorable segments this evening. Do you have a favourite from this series?
I have many favourites, but there's probably two that stick particularly in my mind. One is the awarding of the Benedykt Memorial Scholarship, which is part of the annual scholarship program. It's a way that I can honour my father together with my brothers in recognising somebody that had a great love of Freemasonry and also a great love of music, and to perpetuate his memory. So seeing that on an episode was just wonderful for myself and the family. And the second one was the question and answer session with the panel of young Freemasons, young both in terms of their age and in terms of how long they'd been in the organisation. Just the interest, the diversity, their various reasons for joining really helped encapsulate where Freemasonry is today. So I enjoyed both of those.
We got some great aspects and perspectives in that particular episode. Well, they were some of the memorable moments. It's now a chance to have a look back at some less memorable moments that didn't make it to the screen first time around. Take a look at these.
We're going to talk to some of the people from Second Bite to see what they do, their work they do in the community. Let me do the community.
Alan.
I felt a little bit, what's the word? You're gonna have to stop it there. I felt, what's the word?
With me here today is Harry Pietro. Pitaro.
Yada yada, something else.
With me today is Harry Pietro.
To find out more about Freemasonry, visit the Freemasons Victoria website at www.freemasonsvic. Sorry, there.
Oh, I'm not going to be able to do this now.
Can we have some professionals to work with here? Thanks for joining us. We'd like to hear your thoughts on the program. To tell us what you think, go to www.freemasonsvic.net.au and click on the link to our program survey. It takes less than 10 minutes and will make it worth your while. Everyone who completes the survey before the end of August goes into the draw to win one of 15 debit gift cards valued at $50 each. Winners will be drawn on the 5th of September. So to share your thoughts and be in the running to win, go to www.freemasonsvic.net.au. To find out more about Freemasonry, visit the Freemasons Victoria website or phone us on 1800-FREEMASON. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Flickr, LinkedIn and Google+. We hope you've enjoyed this series of Freemasons The Inside Story, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.